Hi, and welcome to the Stockscores Market Minutes for April 13th, 2015. Let's talk about the importance of being patient with winners. When you have rising bottoms on the chart and an upward trend line in place, you have that sign that the buyers are in control. And as long as that pattern is in place, it's best to be patient and hold. You make more money with that patience and letting those winners run. Now, we should expect pullbacks and upward trends. They are normal and they help to perpetuate that upward trend. They allow for a recharging of the buyer interest. As the saying goes, the profit is in the patience. So stick with your winners, be patient with them, and do the opposite with your losers. All right, let's get into this week's market analysis. An important week because on Monday, the cycle of falling tops was broken. That broke the pessimism that I've had some concern about over the last few weeks. And you can see there, this is a short-term chart of the S&P 500 for the last month, and you can see that there was that break right at the open on Monday, and that started a new cycle of rising bottoms. So my expectation is we probably have a little more upside until we hit the resistance from the middle of March, and at that point we may see some of that selling pressure come back to the market. What's important, however, is that the concern, the bearishness, the little bit of pessimism that was building has been broken. Long-term in the S&P 500 chart, you can see we remain in that long-term upward trend, and we are testing this little bit of falling tops that has been building over the last couple of months. So if we can get that cycle of falling tops to break, we could be back into the bull market trend in the long term as well. On the Russell 2000, we really see outperformance. The small caps are faring better than the large caps. They are nearly at those new highs. And that's important because really there's been a rotation of money out of the large caps and starting to go into that small cap area. Now, as a trader who trades individual stocks, this is a much better scenario than that leadership by the large caps. I'm real happy to see the small caps starting to gather some momentum to the upside. It will make it a lot easier and more profitable to be a trader of individual stocks. On the TSX, we had a real good bounce back this week and actually a pretty good little bull trend on the very short-term chart, and that is actually starting to threaten the breakout from that pennant pattern that we've been in for a number of months. You can see we're just closed above the top of that pattern on Friday. This is a weekly chart going back 3 years, and that red line of resistance was just broken on Friday. So it could be that the Canadian market is coming out of the doldrums after being in that sideways pattern for 6-7 months. That's a good sign for Canadian investors. TSX Venture is trying to stabilize and get better. It still needs to break through that red line of resistance, but we've been slowly drifting higher on the TSX Venture market. Basically, the mining and the energy sectors, the commodity sectors are pretty flat, but we've had some strength in the other sectors of the TSX Venture market, the technology and biotechnology areas, and those areas are doing good. So in that area, I think you can trade that market, but you still want to be pretty cautious with the commodity-based stocks. Treasury bonds have started to build a falling top. And this week we saw some pretty good selling pressure in the treasuries, and that means that we're probably going to move back down and test that long-term upward trend line in green. I think we're seeing a cycle of breaking the bull market in bonds playing out before us, and my expectation is bond prices are going to continue to fall, which means interest rates will begin to rise. US dollar broke its little downward pullback line this week. You can see we've had some convoluted messages. At the start of the week, we broke through the upward trend line, but managed to close above the open. We've come right back, and it looks like we're maybe going to come back and test those old highs. So a little bit of a mixed message in the US dollar. I would say it remains in a bull trend, but there's a lot of uncertainty, and you can see that with the volatility in that market. The gold market had a little bit of an upward move in the last few weeks, but really it remains in that bearish cycle. Not an overly bearish cycle. It's hardly a steep downward trend, but it's really one of complacency. The buyers just aren't that interested in buying gold right now. Oil market has been firming up and stabilizing. It's still way down from where it was, obviously. But if we can continue to build rising bottoms and then break out through that red line of resistance, then maybe the energy sector starts to be a place to put money again. I would say for now, it's really only appropriate for short-term traders. I've been saying that for a few weeks. But if you're a longer-term investor, I would still stay clear of the energy sector. And fear at an all-time low, really a complacent market. Not a lot of people are concerned about anything major dragging the market down. It's just drifting up slowly, and investors just don't have that big concern about a major event that is going to cause a sharp correction. Now that could be dangerous because that's complacency, and it could be that the bond market is what triggers a big correction. But right now, still no signs that anything's going to happen, so I remain bullish on the market. So as I said, US stocks bullish long-term, neutral short-term, we're still stuck in a sideways range. Canadian stocks just starting to break out of that neutral longer-term range, so we could up the rating next week. Bullish in the short term, had a pretty good run over the last 7 or 8 days. Gold, bearish long term. I put a neutral rating on it short term. It seems to be stable. Oil, bearish long term, also neutral short term. Canadian stocks are making a good comeback and must now break out of that pennant pattern that I showed you on the weekly chart. US stocks also found some bids this week and may soon resume their upward trend. I would favor the small caps over the large. Gold and oil are stable, but still not deserving of longer term buying. Fear is minimal, so be patient with your winners. That has been the Stockscores Market Minutes for, April 13th, 2015. Have a great week in the market and trade well.